Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day number 583, October the 20th, 2018, Saturday. Happy Saturday morning. Good to be with you all. Let's go ahead and cover some of the breaking news events, and then we're going to get started this morning on these Senate races. Okay, so one of the bigger stories yesterday was that Nellie Ohr, Smelly Nellie, went for her hearing, and it appears that she has invoked the marital privilege. She has invoked her marital privilege or spousal privilege, some people will call that, to avoid testifying about her husband or answering any questions about any conversation that she had with her husband. Well, that's about 90% of the questions they would want to ask, right? So my guess is, in the early word, from just what I've heard, is that it wasn't very fruitful, that there wasn't really much I could talk about because she was not going to answer questions about many of these things. So a lot of these things were off topic. We can assume that she was not going to answer any directly questions. She's what you would call an uncooperative and possibly even a hostile witness. She is not going to cooperate, basically. And that tells you a lot. It tells you that she knows there could be criminal liability for her husband, or certainly he could lose his job. I assume he will at some point be fired. I don't know that she has done any, she didn't break any law by doing opposition research for Confusion GPS. She's allowed to do that. The issue where she could run into problems, Smelly Nellie, is that if she could be proven to have been knowingly involved in a criminal conspiracy to defraud the voters, to participate in a conspiracy to set up or frame the president or people in his campaign. If you can tie her to the overall criminal conspiracy, she would be facing some legal liability. And they're not there yet, or not even close. They're not. I'm past that point. But as far as the Congress and so-called investigation going on there with these two committees in Congress, they're not quite there yet. So it wasn't like she was worried about incriminating herself so much. It is more about incriminating her husband, I think. So there was probably very little information they were able to get out of her because so much of what they were interested in was trying to get more confirmation of what they've been learning from Baker. And mainly they were probably targeting Glenn Simpson. Of course, they want to know the actual date when Nellie actually started working for Confusion GPS, because we have one set of evidence that says it looked like she started working for Confusion GPS in late fall of 2015. Prior to that, we had been told that she was hired about a week after Confusion GPS was hired by the Rotten Irvin Clinton, which would have been April of 2016. So we have a discrepancy there, and I'm sure that they probably asked that question. I don't know if they got an answer or not. I guess we'll find out. But they probably just didn't get very much out of Nellie, and that tells us that she is protecting or covering up for something or someone that would likely be her husband. But obviously what they learned from Baker was that, and from Bruce Ohr, or specifically from Bruce Ohr, they learned that Bruce Ohr had communicated with Glenn Simpson prior to the election. When Glenn Simpson said no, he didn't talk to Bruce Ohr until after the election. I think that's one thing they wanted to nail down with Nellie. But based on this privilege that she took, this marital privilege or spousal privilege, she would not have answered that question. So they would not have gotten an answer to that question. I imagine many more. So Nellie is not cooperative. She's what we would call uncooperative or hostile witness. This is why, it's good to see that there's the two committees in Congress and the House are going through the dog and pony show. They ultimately really they can't charge anybody, they can't indict anybody, they can't prosecute anybody, and they really can't force anybody to talk. You can go in and plead the fifth, you can go in and not say anything, you can go in, you can lie, you can do all kinds of things, and many people have gone now and lied to Congress, and what happens to them? Nothing. So Congress really has no teeth, and pretty much everyone knows it. It's not a secret. There should have been a special prosecutor, special counsel, presidential commission, something a long, long time ago. There's overwhelming evidence that there was some serious foul play going on with the FBI, the DOJ, the intelligence community, foreign governments, the rotten Reverend Clinton, her campaign, the DNC. You have all this evidence, but yet nothing has happened yet. I think, like a lot of people, I'm patiently waiting till after the midterms to see what happens. Something's going to have to happen at the Department of Justice. Rodenstein and Sessions are simply not going to appoint a special counsel to investigate. Obviously, Rodenstein's not going to, because he would be one of the people being investigated. Sessions, I don't know. Again, I just don't know. We have one side of the issue says, well, Sessions is actually working with Huber. They got a secret investigation going. They're going to drop all kinds of indictments. They got thousands of sealed indictments. There's going to be military tribunals. This is a lot of people believe in that. Then we have another side of it, which is people think Sessions is totally ineffective. There's nothing going on. Huber isn't doing anything. They all just want this to go away. They want to get beyond it. There's nothing going on. So, we really don't know. We really don't know. This is it's a faith-based religion at this point. If you want to, follow Q and you have faith in that and you believe in that and you're sold on that, that's fine. And I hope that turns out to be true. But if it doesn't turn out to be true, what are we left with? Nothing. Okay, so everything is just kind of hanging up in the air until after the midterms, and we'll have to see what actually happens. Now, the only reason that I have any confidence at all that this coup is going to be exposed and the perps are going to be taken down is because of Trump. I just simply think Trump knows exactly what happened, and I don't think he's going to let it slide. What his plan is, how he executes the plan, when he executes the plan, I don't know. That's why I continue to do these videos every day and follow the story. I just don't know what's going on. If I did, I would tell you. But nobody else knows either. Don't let anyone tell you that they got the secret inside skinny and they know all these things. They don't know shit about shit. Nobody knows any more than we all know. No one knows what's going on in Trump's head. No one knows what he knows, what he might do, what his plans are. We can only speculate that just because of what we can see from President Trump, he's not the type of person that lets you run a coup on him and then he lets it slide. Trump hits you back harder than you hit him. So it would be very out of character for him just to forget about it all and let it slide. But he's got a problem, and the problem, he's got Uncle Bob, the executioner, hanging around his neck. And as I've said before, the things that Trump might need to do to bring this thing into play would all be things that would come and counter Uncle Bob, and he would throw himself into a political shitstorm if he tried to take any of these actions, firing Rosenstein, firing Sessions, appointing a special counsel, whatever, any of these things. So I think, as I said a couple days ago, that's why I think Trump is focused almost completely right now on ending the Mueller investigation. Once he's ended the witch hunt by Uncle Bob the executioner, and that is done, then Trump is then free to do a lot of different things. It also means that they can no longer use the excuse to withhold documents by saying, oh, we can't withhold these documents because there's an ongoing investigation, which they're talking about Uncle Bob. Now they may say, oh, well, there's an ongoing investigation. It's the IG, Horowitz. But Trump has already told Horowitz and told Rosenstein and Sessions that, yeah, I'm turning some of this stuff over to Horowitz, but I want the report quick. And if it don't come quick enough for me, I'm going to start declassifying things. So I think that that's exactly what Trump's going to do. He's going to force the hand. He's going to force the hand. But he's got to have the Mueller investigation behind him. It's got to be behind him. Otherwise, he creates a political turmoil around him, which he doesn't need or want. So this is the way I see it, where it stands right now. Uncle Bob the executioner is doing exactly what he was put in there to do, to thwart any attempt to uncover the real crimes. And so the Uncle Bob executioner witch hunt has to be ended. Once that happens, then we can actually take serious and begin looking at what Trump's going to do or what others can do to bring about the real investigation into the real crimes that really happened during the 2016 election, prior to it and after it even. So anyway, this is kind of how I see it. And Nellie Ohr plays a fairly major role. And she does need to be to answer questions, but it's not going to come from Congress. Unless you voluntarily, like Mr. Baker, just wants to sit there and spill his guts, that's wonderful. But most of these people are not doing that. They're telling only what they have to tell. They're covering their own personal butts. That's really it. And it's a very slow process. And at the end of it, Congress can't charge anybody, prosecute anybody, or anything else. And so I'm glad they're doing it, but it's not going to produce what we want, which is justice. It's not, and to reveal the truth about what happened. It's very important that be done. But I believe in Trump. That's the only faith I have. I have no faith in Q. I have no faith in the Congress, not because I don't like them. It's just I know they have no teeth. The only person I truly think that I can put my faith in is Trump. And I believe that he is not going to let it slide, and that he will expose this. I'm sure he's thought this through. He's got a plan. I don't know what it is. If I did, I would tell you. But that's just my gut core instinct, is that we're just having to ride this thing out. And of course, we have to hold on to the House. I think that's very, very critical at this particular point. And that's why Trump's out campaigning doing 3, 4, 5 rallies a week. He understands this. We got to hold on to the House. The Senate's safe for the most part. The House of Representatives is where things are a little shaky. I personally believe we will hold the House, but we're 3 weeks out. A lot of things can happen. There's a lot of money being thrown in. We're defending 40, 45 seats. It's a tough deal, and it's going to come down to turnout. And hopefully, hopefully it'll all turn out well for us, and we'll get the good turnout, and we'll keep the House, and then at least ways we can continue to move forward. If that doesn't happen, we're going to take 20 steps back. It's going to be very tough, and it'll make Trump's job much, much tougher if he doesn't have the House behind him, because immediately he'll be under investigation again by the Democrats. They'll be trying to impeach him and everything else. It'll really muck up the works. So anyway, nothing much was learned, I don't think, from Nellie Ohr. I doubt she answered very many questions. I don't know how truthful she was if she did answer any questions. Wouldn't trust smelly Nellie as far as I could throw her. We know she's a commie. We know she's hardcore anti-Trump. She lived in the Soviet Union. Not talking Russia. I'm talking Soviet Union, when it was the Soviet Union. She lived there, studied there, speaks the language, has friends there. She's a commie through and through. Red to the bone, to the core. But yeah, this is, this doesn't surprise me. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. We have U.S. District Judge Dabney Friedrich, the Trump appointee, who has told now Uncle Bob the Executioner and his Hillary donor posse that the case against Concord Management, was not, that their conduct was not in violation of the law. Now, the last time we talked about this story, the attorneys for Concord had asked the judge to dismiss the case. Okay, so now Uncle Bob comes back and the Hillary donor posse, and they bring forward more information. The judge looked at it, and he's still telling Uncle Bob and the Hillary donor posse that, as far as he can tell, as he is the judge in this case, that Concord Management's conduct was not in violation of the law. And the crime that they're being charged with is conspiracy against the U.S. for failing to register for social media spins and other political activities. So the judge is not finding where Concord committed any of these crimes that they're being charged with. So now, where this is moved, is that the judge has now issued a message to the, or an order, I should say, an order to the Mueller team that they must file a brief with the court by October the 23rd to clarify their position in order for the case to move forward, or he's going to dismiss the case. So clearly the judge is taking issue with this charge against Concord Management. It's been a freak show since the very beginning. If you remember, at the very beginning of this case, Uncle Bob comes in with millions and millions of pages of printed out documents off the internet in Russian and tries to associate Concord Management with these 13 trolls, the troll farm, the whole 9 yards. And the whole case has just been bad theater. And so it looks like I think Uncle Bob just wants to drag it out to after the midterms. It's going to be an embarrassing situation when the judge just finally dismisses the case, which he's almost certainly going to do. And Uncle Bob's just trying to buy some time, and he's hoping that the dismissal will happen after he's wrapped up his deal. He's gone away. It will make the back page of the papers. No one will even read it. No one will even care. It'll be just forgotten about. So this is going to be going down in the loss column for Uncle Bob the Executioner. Concord's going to win this case. And if you read deeper into the story, you'll see why. So this is where that stands. So October 23rd, Mueller's going to have to come out and clarify their position based on what the judge told them today. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. And then there'll be another hearing probably a month later after the election. And Uncle Bob's team will probably come in and say, okay, yeah, we'll just give up on it. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye. And they'll be out the door. So that's probably how that's going to work out. It was all just a show anyway. Uncle Bob had hit a lapse period. People were getting kind of cranky. Nothing was coming out of it. He needed to indict something or someone. He found a ham sandwich named Concord Management. That's what happened. So we talked about yesterday that Meadows and Jordan, Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, finding out that they are going to be able to interview Rodenstein, but these two are not going to be invited. No. It's only going to be Gowdy, Goodlatte, and two Democrats on the committees who are going to only try to obstruct the Q&A. So Meadows and Jordan are really, really pissed off at this point that they're not going to be able to participate in that. So I don't blame them. I would be too. I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. I don't know why Goodlatte negotiated anything with Rodenstein. I would have said to Rodenstein, no, there is no negotiation. We're the committee that looks over this. You come to our committee, the whole committee, and we're going to subpoena you, and you're going to come and answer our questions. Pretty much it. But for some reason, they capitulated to Rodenstein, and we'll see, because we're going to get a transcript of the questions, hopefully, most of them. I'm sure some of it will be blacked out, but hopefully we'll learn most of the questions, and I'm going to be very, very disappointed if Goodlatte and Gowdy do not ask the questions that a lot of the ones that have been raised by Jordan and Meadows, the ones all of us would ask. You know, if they don't ask the right questions, I'm going to be really, really ticked off. Especially with Gowdy. I don't have a lot of confidence in Gowdy. I'm not a big fan of Gowdy. He's worried about his future after politics. I just don't have much confidence in him. Meadows is, Goodlatte's a good man, but he's not Jordan. He's not Meadows. He won't push Rodenstein the way that Meadows and Jordan would. And so we'll see what comes out of it. That will happen next week. You know, we have this love affair that the media is having with Beto O'Rourke. They think he's the great white hope. They're already thinking about him as presidential material in 2020. It's just amazing how the Democrats will latch on. I mean, CNN did an entire town hall for him the other night. It's not helping. Cruz is going to win that race. But it's funny they're talking about him as being this great white hope when he can't even win a Senate race in Texas. Yet he's the great white hope, possibly going to be on the national stage. And the thing about this guy is CNN spends a whole hour with this dude, and there is not one single second of the entire time where they can actually talk about anything he's actually ever accomplished. What, he was on city council? From city council to senator? And what has he accomplished? What has he accomplished besides being involved in a DUI and attempting to leave the scene of the accident? After crashing into a truck, he lost control of his car. He was very, very drunk, according to his blood alcohol level. Crashed his car, slid through the median, hit a truck. Then he tried to flee the scene of the accident. That's the only thing that we know that he's accomplished. So I'm asking any of you if you could provide for me in the comment section, because I can't find anything. Could someone please provide for me somewhere in the comment section anything that Beto O'Rourke has actually accomplished? Anything that he's actually accomplished. Because I can't find anything. It's kind of hard to run for president when the two things that everyone only knows about you on your resume are that you lost to Ted Cruz in a Senate race and that you tried to flee the scene of an accident created by you while you were drunk driving. Other than that, I don't know what he's got. So if you can tell me anything this guy's ever done, please put it in the comments section. Now I want to go to focus on these Senate races. But before I do, just a quick comment on this. Just this overall picture of the 2018 midterm race, how it's being run. Really stark contrast between the Republicans and Democrats in this particular 2018 midterm. What you see happening is that on the Republican side, they are running a national campaign, and it's a national campaign on Trump. They are running on the Trump agenda. They're running on Trump's policies. They're running on Trump wanting to build the wall, wanting to control the border, wanting to have a real immigration policy, wanting to continue the good things going on with the economy with tax cuts, business tax cuts, personal tax cuts. He wants more tax cuts, deregulation, fighting crime. All these things are the Trump agenda, and this is what you see Republicans running on all across the country. Even someone like Dean Heller, who was anti-Trumper. Now he's pretending to be a pro-Trumper. He's asking Trump to come in and campaign for him. Trump is going to be campaigning for him, and he'll be back again, I'm sure. So what you see the Republicans running really a national campaign. They're running on pretty much Trump's agenda. But what you see on the Democratic side is the complete opposite. They are literally running about 300 different campaigns. Depending on what district you're in, depends. You have a lot of Democrats out there literally running, sounding like Republicans. They've been told by Nancy Pelosi and the DNC, go out and lie. Just go out and lie. You can't tell, in the district you're in, you can't go out and tell the truth about what we're going to do if we take back control of Congress. You can't tell the truth about how you're going to vote. So go out and lie. Just go out and sound like a Republican. Just go out and sound just like a Republican. And give that your best shot. And we'll pour a ton of money in behind you, and we'll run some dirty tricks against your opponent. So this is what the Democrats are doing. They're not running on one cohesive message or anything like that. The Democrats, it depends on which district you're in or which state you're in, will depend on how they're running their campaigns. It's generally not considered to be a good strategy, but it's the only one they have. They can't run on a national campaign because in places where they're deep blue states, they have to run on a hard left agenda, run on a socialist agenda, and states in these red states that Trump won, where they're trying to hold on, they have to go out and run as Republicans and lie about everything they believe, as we've seen exposed by Project Veritas, and I understand there'll be more. So this is what you're seeing all across the country on the Democratic side. They're just running, and every race, depending on where it is, running a completely different campaign. There's no national Democratic campaign in the 2018 midterms. It's all completely been localized or to the states, and they're running on whatever they have to run on, say whatever they have to say, to try to win, why they try to buy the election with a ton of money. And that's pretty much the campaign strategy for the Democrats in the 2018 midterms. Let's look at some of these individual races. I'm going to cite some of these, where some of these standings are right now, but I would take it with a grain of salt because these are not aggregates. What I looked at Cook Political Report, just because it's the easiest site to navigate right now. And they don't have any aggregate polls on their site. What they have is the latest polls. Some of these polls are a day old, some are 2 or 3 days old, some are a week or 2 weeks old. Okay, so we don't have great polling data. I don't put a lot of confidence in polls anyway. I'm not basing my prediction, as I gave yesterday, I'm not basing that too much on polls. And these are not aggregates. These are the most recent polls. And some of these polls I've never even heard of before. They're just outliers. Total outliers. But I will mention what the most recent poll on Cook Political Report is showing as I go through these races. But for those of you who live in these states, you will have a lot more information than even I would, because you live there and you're following these races closer than I can. So let's start with Indiana, where we have Joe Donnelly running against Mike Braun. Trump won Indiana by 20 points. This is Mike Pence's home state. Donnelly voted no on Kavanaugh. But Donnelly is a very good position, and he's pretty popular in Indiana. And there's a ton of money, again, probably 2-to-1 money going into this race. Donnelly probably getting 2-to-1 over Braun in money. The last poll taken here has Donnelly up by 4. Now, you also have a wild card in this race because you have a libertarian running there in Indiana who's polling about 8 or 9, 10%. And they believe that that's taking away from Braun, and I expect that it is. So that's where we are currently in Indiana. This is, I would put this in toss-up category. Could go either way. My gut tells me it will fall Republican at the end of the day, but it's one of those that's clearly a toss-up. Donnelly's a good politician. He's well-liked. He's got a lot of money behind him, and it will come down, like all these races, to turnout. So we'll see what happens in Indiana. I need to call my sister and ask her how that's going to work out. She lives in Indiana. She would probably know. Anyway, that's where we stand in Indiana. Mike Braun, Joe Donnelly. Basically, Donnelly up by 4. That's the latest poll. Not sure what poll that is. But I think this race is probably what you would call dead heat right now, and it will come down to turnout. Florida, the race between Bill Nelson and Rick Scott. This currently has the latest poll taken, has Scott +2. So we have Scott, the Republican, up by 2. But again, Florida, this is within the margin of error. It's going to be very, very close. Again, this race, like all the rest, will come down to turnout. And of course, we have to keep in mind, we still have 3 weeks to go, and there could always be some last minute. There will be, in fact, in all these races, last minute hit jobs done by all these guys on their opponents. There'll be a lot of late October surprises. How much it affects any of these races is hard to say. You just have to work through the problem. But again, this race will obviously come down to turnout, particularly in the strong Republican strongholds in Florida. It's going to take a lot of turnout, and I think we're going to have. And the reason that I am optimistic that we're going to do well is because I believe Republicans are going to have a very big turnout in this midterm, much bigger than you typically see in midterms. Has a lot to do with Trump, but it has a lot to do with what Republicans fear could happen if we don't hold on to both houses. We have the Tennessee race with Bredesen and Marsha Blackburn. Most of the polls have Blackburn up in this race by a slight margin, probably within the margin of error. But the latest poll, according to Cook Report, has Bredesen up by 1. I'm not very confident in that poll. I'm not sure what poll that is, but I don't think that's the case. I think Marsha Blackburn probably has a slight lead, and I feel really good that she's going to win that race. I don't think she's going to run away with it. I think it's going to come down within probably 5, 6, maybe 7 points. I don't think it's going to be a runaway race. I think it's going to be very close. This, of course, is Bob Corker's old seat, so it was previously held by a Republican. Of course, Project Veritas did the video exposing Bredesen. Blackburn gained a couple points after that. I assume Trump will be back in Tennessee before this race is over. And I expect at the end of the day, Blackburn is going to win this race. I don't think she'll win it by a great margin, but I think she will win the race. She's got to get out and vote there as well. Then we have the Montana race, of course, with John Tester versus Matt Rosendale. Of course, Trump wants this bad in the worst kind of way. Of course, it was John Tester who went after Trump's pick for the head of the VA, Ronnie Jackson. And this is personal for Trump. That's why he was in Montana the other night. I think he'll probably be back one more time. Right now, they've got Tester up by 2. But again, Montana's a race that Trump won by a mile, by a huge margin. So we're just going to have to follow this and see. This is another one with good turnout. Again, I think this is a very winnable race. I would say, a margin of error race again, too close to call. Just like all the rest of these races, really going to be turnout. North Dakota, Heidi Heitkamp, Kevin Kramer. Trump won here by 36 points. Last time I looked, Heitkamp was down 12 points. The latest poll on Cook Report shows 11, so that's pretty close. Actually, there was 2 polls listed taken the same day. One had by 11, one had 9. So they've gotten Kramer up by 9 and up by 11 in the 2 recent polls taken. And I think that's a pretty solid win. I think that one's been iced. I think unless Kramer makes a huge mistake in this race, that North Dakota, you can put that in the win column. But get out and vote anyway. Make sure of it. The Nevada race we were talking about earlier with Jackie Rosen and Dean Heller. Heller is currently up by 7. Of course, Heller gained 4 points last week alone. I guess part of the Kavanaugh fallout. The Right Reverend Clinton, of course, won Nevada in 2016. Heller, of course, was not a Trump fan in his early days when Trump was first elected, but he has changed his ways. He's probably faking it, but he has learned that Trump's so popular in the Republican Party, if you want to get elected, you better be on his side. Trump's been out there campaigning for him. I believe he'll be back. The Hispanic vote is going to be a big factor in this race. Trump is polling in the 30 to 35, 36% positive approval with Latinos. That's pretty good. So I think this race is in the bag for Heller. He's never lost a race in his life, I understand. He's a slick politician, good politician. So I believe that this race is going to hold up. I believe we are going to hold Nevada again, as long as nothing crazy happens. I think that this one here can also go in the win column, but get out and vote in Nevada for Dean Heller. Missouri, McCaskill and Hawley. Of course, everybody's following this race real close. This is probably one of the biggest races to the Republicans. They really want to knock off a heavy hitter like McCaskill. She's considered, in a top 10, top tier type Democrat. You'd like to knock her out of that seat in Missouri. Currently, we have they're showing a slight lead right now for Hawley, but it's a slight lead. It's within the margin of error. Looks like the last poll taken had him up by 2. I think it's probably more than that. I don't know what the aggregate would say, but I think it's probably closer to 4, 5, 6 maybe. Again, I think this is a very winnable race. I don't know if you put it in the win column just yet. Still a couple weeks to go. Anything can happen. It'll also be, because it's so close, it's going to be a big, big, big turnout state. Turnout is going to be crucial. We'll decide this race. So if you're in Missouri, you got to get out and vote for Josh Hawley in this race. Then we have the Arizona race with Kristen Sinema and Martha McSally. Of course, McSally is currently leading. She got a good bump last week. Trump was out there campaigning. I'm sure he'll be back again. Sinema is a left-wing lunatic. This is Flake's old seat. We currently have the latest poll showing McSally up by 6. I think that's probably accurate. I'm surprised she's not up by more, because you couldn't have a greater contrast between two candidates than what you see here with McSally and Sinema. They're really 180-degree opposites. And I just think it's another race. It's just beyond the margin of error. McSally's probably going to win this race, but take no chances. Definitely get out and vote in the Arizona race. It's just you can't risk a race that close. West Virginia, Joe Manchin and Morrissey. Manchin, of course, voted for Kavanaugh. I think that probably helped him with his independents and Republicans. Trump won here by 43 points. Everybody knows that. It's in a statistical dead heat right now. The latest poll has it pretty much at a tie. Joe Manchin's a good politician. He's well liked in West Virginia. He knows how to win these races in West Virginia. He knows that state well. He's won a lot of tough races there. He's a tough guy to knock out. I think Morrissey can win this race, but it's going to be a turnout race again. West Virginia voted overwhelmingly for Trump. So, again, this comes down to just one of these races. Again, it's going to be like 90% of these races are going to be turnout. So you got to get out and vote in West Virginia. I'm sure you will. Then, of course, we have Texas, the race between O'Rourke and Cruz. Cruz is going to win this. There's huge money being thrown into this race, most of it coming from out of state, a lot of it coming from Hollywood, backing O'Rourke. He's a big Hollywood guy. They love him out in Hollywood. But Cruz currently is holding a 7-point lead, according to the latest poll. I think Cruz will win that race by at least 7 points. I think it'll get even larger as the weeks go on. There's no real dirt on Cruz. Anything that was out there probably would have been dug up when he ran for president. I don't think there's much there you can throw against him. I think that Cruz will win the state, not by a mile, but he'll win it comfortably, probably 8, 10 points, I think. But get out and vote in Texas for Ted Cruz, even if you don't like him. Michigan, of course, John James, Stabenow. This is a race to watch, but right now Stabenow is up by 9. This could close up. I expect I expect that this race, this could be the big shocker. John James could win this race, but you will really have to get great turnout in Michigan and have low turnout on the Democrat side. And then, of course, we have this other race, Menendez and Huggins, which is now in play, which no one thought would be in play. Menendez is only up by 2 in New Jersey. Get out and vote in New Jersey. You got a chance to steal one, my friends. Get out and do it. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.